Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tearing down the myths about Japan's population crisis because almost everything we are told is completely wrong. We usually get this image of Japan as a high-tech wonderland where young people are just too obsessed with anime and video games to bother dating. Well, those are myths. The reality we're unpacking today is much darker, incredibly fascinating, and honestly, a chilling warning for the rest of the world.
You've probably heard Western commentators pushing this narrative, blaming digital avatars and claiming an entire generation has just given up on real human connection. But the data calls their bluff. Actually, 80% of single Japanese people actively want to get married. They aren't choosing pixels over people. They're being crushed by a devastating financial trap. Japan is running on an insolvent, inescapable business model that is effectively cannibalizing its own youth.
Part 1. The Dark Truth About Japan. Let's peel back the curtain and look at the grim economic mechanics actually driving this crisis.
Okay, so any functioning society relies on basic math. A large working-age population pays the taxes that support a smaller retired population. But Japan, they have the oldest population on the planet. Nearly 30% of the country is 65 or older, and there are a world record 99,000 centenarians. With birth rates plummeting, we are staring down the terrifying emergence of a 1-to-1 dependency ratio. That means one tax-paying worker is expected to financially carry one retired citizen. That math simply does not work. And the pressure is intense. To support this massive aging demographic, Japan's national burden rate, which combines taxes and Social Security, has skyrocketed to an astonishing 46%. Think about that for a second. Imagine clocking in for a 10-hour shift in Tokyo. Almost half of your entire shift gets absorbed by the government just to keep the collective system afloat. You literally don't start earning money to buy your own dinner until the second half of the day. The national budget has basically become a state-sanctioned vacuum, sucking away the wealth of the young.
Part 2. The Economic Marriage Trap. If the math is this broken, you might naturally wonder why young people aren't demanding an overhaul so they can start their lives.
The short answer is societal paralysis. Before the 1990s, Japan offered stable, lifetime employment. Workers had incredibly secure futures, so they got married and had kids. But when the economic bubble burst in the 90s, corporations panicked. They gutted lifetime employment and forced a massive chunk of the workforce into a vulnerable, precariat class. We're talking young people stuck in temporary, part-time, low-paying jobs with absolutely zero stability to plan a future.
Which leads to this massive, unwritten roadblock. In Japan, there is a societal expectation that a man must earn at least 3 million yen, or about $20,000 a year minimum, before he is considered financially fit to marry. The catch? Up to 60% of single men in their early 20s simply don't make that much. They aren't ignoring romance, they are quite literally locked out of family life because they cannot afford the entry fee.
Part 3. Punished for having children. And unfortunately, the tragedy only deepens from there.
Even if a couple somehow clears that immense financial hurdle, the corporate machine is practically waiting to destroy the mother's career the minute they start a family. Ambitious women face what's known as matahara, or maternity harassment. They are bullied out of offices, demoted, and pressured to quit because of this lingering 1970s mindset that women belong at home. When they try to re-enter the workforce, up to half are forced into non-regular jobs, getting a fraction of male pay with zero security. They are thrown straight into an economic meat grinder.
The system is effectively forcing millions of women into an impossible choice. Preserve your financial future and keep your paycheck, or sacrifice everything, face harassment, and lose your career to have a baby. You simply cannot have both. And faced with that brutal reality, millions of women are making the only logical choice available to them. They're keeping the paycheck.
Part 4. The Abandoned House Crisis. This systemic cannibalization of the youth isn't just breaking families on paper, it's physically rotting the country's infrastructure in real time.
Just wrap your head around this number. There are currently 9 million akiya, or abandoned homes, acting as financial dead zones across the country. In a normal economy, real estate builds wealth, but in Japan, strict property laws make demolition costs astronomical. Plus, unyielding tax laws mean you are heavily taxed on these properties even if nobody lives there. So younger generations inheriting these homes view them as massive liabilities. People are actively hiding from tax authorities just to avoid claiming them. To truly put that staggering number into perspective, that is 14% of the nation's entire residential architecture just sitting empty and crumbling. 9 million homes is enough to provide a house for every single man, woman, and child currently living in New York City. Entire neighborhoods are turning into ghost towns that absolutely nobody wants to live in, pay for, or tear down. Part 5. The Fatal Automation Myth.
With the human workforce physically vanishing and infrastructure crumbling, the government thinks it has found a high-tech solution.
To understand why the government is panicking, we have to look at the social shortage. For decades, Japan's economy ran on extreme overwork, which led to karoshi, literal sudden death from working too much. Trying to save lives, the government finally capped overtime hours for logistics workers. Ethically, the right move. Economically, it instantly broke the supply chain. This caused a 14% delivery shortfall in 2024 alone, and it's projected to hit 34% by 2030. Goods literally cannot get from point A to point B because the workers just vanished.
So how do they fix this crippling lack of manpower? Well, Japan is doing exactly what the world expects. Instead of relying on massive immigration, they are going all in on robotics and AI. You see them everywhere now, in hospitals, convenience stores, and warehouses. But we really have to ask, is this actually going to save an aging society?
The short answer is no, because here is the fatal flaw in all this blind technological optimism. Robots can perfectly optimize supply chains and produce goods, but they cannot consume them. Robots do not buy homes, they don't sign up for gym memberships, they don't buy clothes, and they don't go out to dinner. Economies require consumption to balance production. When a country fails to support its young people, it doesn't just lose its workforce, it loses its market entirely. It's a devastating demand collapse.
Part 6. Your future is Japanese. Ultimately, this missing demand stems from a massive generational theft. And this is where the explainer shifts from being a fascinating look at an isolated island to a chilling warning for the rest of us.
It all boils down to generational wealth hoarding. Japanese households are sitting on an unbelievable $14 trillion in financial assets. But look at who holds it. An enormous percentage is disproportionately hoarded by seniors over 65. It's just sitting there as dead money in stagnant safes and zero-interest accounts. It's not being reinvested into startups or passed down to young families. Because of this, desperate young workers are essentially abandoning their own collapsing domestic market, investing whatever little money they have into foreign markets and U.S. tech stocks just to survive.
And here is exactly why this matters to you. Japan isn't an isolated anomaly. It's a blueprint. Step 1, birth rates decline, which we are already seeing across the developed world. Step 2, Western countries use the immigration band-aid, importing foreign labor to prop up the system. But Step 3, as developing nations industrialize, their birth rates also drop, shrinking the global talent pool. Which inevitably leads to Step 4, the exact same systemic demand collapse that Japan is experiencing right now.
Tokyo is basically the guinea pig in a massive global experiment. What we are analyzing today is a 20-year preview of the economic cliff that North America, Europe, and the rest of the developed world are rapidly approaching. Birth rates in places like the US, Canada, and the UK are already far below replacement level. The social shortage is going to extend thousands of miles beyond Tokyo's borders.
So the real question isn't how Japan will fix its unique, quirky problems. The question you should be taking away from this explainer is what will you do when this exact same generational collapse, this total breaking of the fundamental rules of capitalism, comes for your own bank account? Will you be ready?